quick question about Screaming Frog.
Yeah.
I think it was a webinar that you were on. I think with I think it was one that Andy did. May have been something else. And they referenced Screaming Frog, and they were talking about, I think they were talking about internal links. And they had, oh, you run it through Screaming Frog, and they had like actually a little, kind of like an answer the public. What is that type thing called? With you got one in the middle.
Yeah.
Those things.
Spider chart, I think.
Yeah. And so they were saying, oh, you put it in Screaming Frog, and then you see the chart. Is that in the paid version of Screaming Frog, or do you know how you get that chart to come up?
Pardon me. I don't use it.
Okay. You don't use Screaming Frog?
Oh, I love Screaming Frog. Use it every day. I don't use that chart.
Okay.
I don't find that particularly helpful.
Okay.
But Screaming Frog is an amazing tool.
Yeah.
Because, and I do pay for it, but I use it. I mean, I say it every day. I use it at least once a week.
Yeah.
And think of it as if you could see your website from the perspective of the Google crawler.
Mm-hmm.
And from a 10,000 foot overview, and catching details that my human eyes would often overlook, like duplicate URLs, links that are broken, spider traps, like a link that goes to link that goes to link that you just keeps adding to the, you've seen them before where the link, the HTML is written incorrectly. And so by clicking on a link, you go to a page that doesn't exist that has an extra piece appended to it. And then there's a page on that goes to a page that it's a spider trap, right?
Yeah.
It's called a spider trap because it can get the Google spider trapped down a rabbit hole. Anyway, there's all kinds of huge things. You can also connect it with like PageSpeed Insights and check every page speed on every page of your site. You can make sure all your redirects are in place. You can find 404 errors. You can use it to crawl. One of my favorite things to do is to crawl a website to find places where I could add internal links. Because it's really hard to say where on my website is everywhere this word mentioned. And then I go to that page and then change that HTML and link to the page that I want to rank for that word. Screaming Frog makes that real easy. In fact, I find so many, you can't possibly use them all.
Yeah.
It's great. I've designed Curious Ants to be able to do as much as you can without having to invest in a crap ton of SEO tools, because I do believe you should be able to do quality SEO without having to spend a lot on extra tools. The first thing I would buy if I was ready to do things is Screaming Frog. But I would first use the free version.
Yeah, I have
the maximum limit you can.
Yeah, and I think when I first heard of Screaming Frog, I was like, I mean, there's just like, you're like, what do you look at? Luckily, though, I was at in a meetup several years back in person, and we went over it, and it was like, okay, I see, that really helped. But I have not purchased it because I just haven't used it to the best that I know I could. So
right. And that's why I built Curious Ants to not use the tools, because I'm convinced so many of these tools make money from people who spend the money and never use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
SEMrush. I hate SEMrush because it's such a baloney thing that it just confuses people, but they feel like they got to spend the money.
Yeah.
But people don't know how to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, you have SEMrush? I got it. No.
Right.
I don't.
But it uses it, right?
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing with it.
I mean, the second purchase I'd make is a backlink tool, but that's when you really start to get into backlinking, right? Like, I think Yusuf would agree. It was a lot harder to do link building until I gave him access to my link building tool.
Yeah,
like
especially the broken backlinking. I think having a tool is necessary. Like, it's impossible to not do it without one.
Or Skyscraper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, for skyscraper, maybe you can search a bit, waste some time.
Yeah.
But for broken backlinking, like it's impossible.
Right. Exactly. So, but I really want to encourage you all to learn how to do SEO before you start spending money on these tools, which can get really expensive really fast, especially if you don't need them all the time.
Yeah.
Right. But I can't recommend Screaming Frog enough. It's such a fun, it is the first thing I do when I launch a new website. I want to crawl that thing. Mm-hmm. And it finds so many errors. I do it for every client at least once a month because it just always shows me problems that I'm like, oh, didn't know that was a problem. Oops, guess we got to fix it, right? Because again, it replicates what Google would experience going through your site in a way where you're like, oh, oh, that could be a real problem.
Okay.
Plus, it kind of forces you to learn stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Because I need to go back through Screaming Frog. I have the free version right now and get more comfortable with it, I think, to see what I'm doing.
You know, honestly, I would start by getting comfortable with Search Console.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I would start there.
Yeah.
Because Search Console is telling you what Google thinks about your website.
Yeah.
And so start there before you have to use a third-party tool.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're going to get, then there will be a point where you'll max out what Search Console can tell you, or you'll need Screaming Frog or something similar to find where Google is finding the error. Like, for instance, Google finds 404 errors all the time. You're like, where the heck is that thing? Well, Screaming Frog will be able to find it for you, typically.
Yeah.
Because Google will know it doesn't tell you how they're finding this 404 error. It doesn't tell you.
Yeah.
Okay. But I double down on the free tools. There's so much power in those free tools before you start spending money. To do advanced SEO, you're going to have to spend that money and get those tools. No arguments here. But just please, as you're getting started and providing it as a service, please use the free tools. Yeah, and in fact, one of the things I'm going to be doing in the next month is, and I'm saying this to hold myself accountable, I want to start using Bing Webmaster Tools more too. I don't give a rat's butt about Bing, right? I care so little about Bing, but the Webmaster tool has a lot of great resources that kind of replicate Screaming Frog. So if you use the free Bing tool, you can delay your need for Screaming Frog. And because frankly, you know, I don't even really care if I show up on Bing. If what I do on Google is going to affect Bing anyway, so who cares? But if the Bing Webmaster tool has things that Google won't give me, oh, I'm going to use it. Like they have a keyword tool. They have a crawler. Will identify site errors like Screaming Frog will. So I'm going to kind of I've been playing with it. I'm going to start writing it up. So add that to the process.
Okay, good. Yeah, I, quite some time ago, I had started, this is like a couple of years ago, I had looked at Screaming Frog and I was going to upgrade to the paid version. I'm glad I didn't because I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually you won't be able to live without it. But I don't, postpone the purchase.
Yeah, definitely.
As much as I mean, guys, there's so many crappy SEO tools out there. This is well worth the money. I mean, I think you remember me wearing my Screaming Frog t-shirt to WordCamps. I was so proud of that t-shirt because I was the only one in the United States with a Screaming Frog t-shirt. No longer the case. But I love it. I really like my favorite tool. There are cloud-based versions that will do things automatically and crawl things for you. I just rather manually do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting off on a tangent.
That was helpful.